Hi, welcome to Read 511. I thought I would give you some feedback this week on your research questions and the key search terms that you wrote about last week. So this is the feedback from week 5. So first let's talk about the research questions. I think 2 weeks ago I made a screencast in which I went over some of the wording that you should use in your research question based on what you had turned in from the 10 researchable questions assignment. And I am very pleased to report that what I read this week, overall your research questions really looked great. So in terms of the language that you use, the way that you are phrasing your questions, and kind of the content and the quality of what folks want to search for their literature review was really great. So if there was any specific issues with questions, I gave those people some individual feedback. In terms of looking at the questions, I see some people still wrote, well, I'm narrowing, narrowing my search down a little bit, or as I find more articles, I'm becoming more interested in XYZ. And then I've gotten quite a few emails from individuals asking, is it okay that I change my question, and I was going to do this and now I want to do this? And so the answer to all of those is yes, it's fine. There's no real reason that at this point or before this point that your question needed to kind of be set in stone. So you can revise it. So you can revise the wording, I'd say, in the next week or so as you continue to search for articles and as you continue to read more about the topic. The actual language of your questions can be revised. At this point, since you're already into the searching and then this week you're going to have to share some actual articles, I don't know that I would be changing my content so much. But certainly you can tighten up that question or kind of just change its focus a little bit if you find that that needs to be done as you read more. So groups. In the past, I have assigned folks to groups, but I really didn't want to keep you within the confines of a particular group, because some of your topics I really saw as being able to fit into multiple groups. And so depending on how you were looking at that topic or that question, I wanted you to be able to choose the group that was a good fit for you. So with that, please know that being in the group is really just for your convenience. So when we participate in the discussion forums, or you have a question about something that you're working on, you have folks who are kind of in topic alike, who are working on topic alike questions. So you have some peers to collaborate with. If you want to change groups, that's fine. You can also go between two groups. So let's say, my question could fall in motivation, but it could also fall into the adult basic education category. You can post in both groups and you can give feedback and get feedback from students in both groups. Don't feel that you need to, make a commitment and just stay in that one, particularly if your topic goes over, because again, it's really just for you. I probably am not even going to notice if you switch groups. So maybe there's a particular person that you find you work really well with, and your topics are similar, and so you would rather just continue to post in that group because you get good feedback and can give good feedback as well. So you can belong to more than one group. There was quite a few folks in the miscellaneous group, and as I was looking at some of the questions, I think that you could probably go into some other groups. So think about your question, poke around and see what topics folks are covering in some of the groups, and see if you can fit yourself into one. So for example, I saw a few of you are looking at phonics issues or phonics instruction, or looking at things particular to kinder. So that can all go into the emergent literacy early reading group if you feel comfortable there. You can also go into I think motivation fit with some of those early literacy pieces too, depending on the questions. You can stay in miscellaneous, but in general it tends to be the case that you don't get the most specific feedback in miscellaneous because you're all working on particular things. But yeah, so feel free to kind of go between the different groups if you're finding that that suits your needs. Because I noticed too, like some folks are focusing on special education, but they may have felt more comfortable putting themselves in the reading topic that they were looking at. But it might also be helpful to you to stay in that reading topic and then also go into the special education group as well and see what folks are doing in that group. All right, so you gave each other some really good feedback on searching the library, and so there were some of those things that I wanted to capitalize on or discuss a little bit further. So one was to make use of the librarian. There used to be an assignment in this class where we actually had you contact the librarian and either through email or go to the library, and they helped you come up with a research plan for this paper. The reason I excluded it this semester is because the last time I did it, there are so many of you now in 511 that the librarian got a little overwhelmed that everybody contacted them in the same 2 or 3 days with these fairly large requests for information and help, and I think the librarians weren't used to that, and so I got a not very friendly message from the library about this assignment. They didn't say I had to change it, but they wanted me to stagger it, and that doesn't make sense, obviously, for the class to stagger the due dates. It all needs to be done around the same time. So anyway, I digress. But don't be afraid to use the librarian. We have a librarian who is just for education, and to be honest, that's what they get paid for, right? To help the students. So there's a chat feature, and there's the video resources you can watch. So you can email them. So if you're having trouble narrowing down your search terms, send them an email. Tell them this is what I've already searched. Can you give me some idea? Because that's what they're there for. So please, if you're having any difficulty, or you're just curious to see what kind of information or feedback they would give you, use the librarian. So play with lots of terms. This is something that I've have learned over the course of many years, is that the more kind of narrow I can make or specific I can make my search terms as I go through my searching process, the better results I get. So kind of start in the beginning with more broad terms. I search things like reading and motivation or writing and English learners. And then as I see the titles of what pops up and I see what other folks are writing, or that, I get 1,800, which actually with writing and English language learners, I would never get 1,800 articles. But in some of those topics, you could get thousands of articles. And so you'll quickly realize that you need to narrow those terms down. So, if you get too specific, sometimes you can't find anything, but you'll pick up the lingo. The other thing is, you may know what you're looking for, but you're not quite sure how they word it in the research. And so kind of just doing searches, and even if you get like 1,700, articles back, scan through 2 or 3 pages just to read the titles and just to read the abstracts and the keywords that are given there, because you'll see, those are the keywords that I should put. So the articles will show you the keywords. Every time you write an article or you submit an article for publication, you need to include the keywords there for the publisher as the author. So this way, the articles pop up in particular searches. So Maria had that idea of Google in one of the groups. Maria shared with us that she looks on Google first and gets some ideas of what some good search terms were. So if you're struggling, that might be a place that you want to start too. So make use of the advanced searching as well, and I'm going to show you some examples. Don't be afraid of the advanced search. It can really help narrow your search. You can do things like search full text only, which will give you articles that we have at the Pollock Library in full text, because there's nothing worse than looking at the title of an article, you read the little abstract piece, and you're like, this is great. This is exactly the article that I want. And then you try to download it, and you're like, wait, we don't have it. And then you get all the links for the interdisciplinary learning library and all that, and you're like, I want the article now. So if you check off full text, you will get articles that we have access to the full text right now. You may want to narrow your search so that it's only articles. So that's going to be the easiest for you, particularly because you're in an online class. If you sometimes, again, the same thing happens, like you'll get the title of a book, and you're like, okay, this sounds great, but I'm not near Fullerton, or it's not even a book we have. It's a book that's part of the group of libraries that we belong to, so they could order the book for you and have it sent, but they don't have it sent to Fullerton, so it can be kind of overwhelming if you want to get books. And for the purpose of this assignment, articles are expected and articles are fine. So unless you have really easy access to a book or a book chapter, don't drive yourself nuts trying to get it. It has been my experience also, by and large, that as helpful as the description of a particular book or a particular book chapter may seem, oftentimes they're not as useful, because you either have to read the whole book, or you have to that chapter has to kind of fit exactly with what you're looking for. And for just a literature review like this project, the whole book is probably too much information for you. I use full books when I'm actually doing a study and we're writing the literature review for a research proposal. And we have a really good idea of kind of the breadth of the study and the depth that we need to go into. And there, books are very helpful. But by and large, to do a run-of-the-mill literature review, you don't need books. So articles are totally fine. So you may want to, in your advanced search, exclude book reviews. You're probably finding that you get lots of book reviews that come up too, and you can exclude the actual books themselves. So I'm actually going to stop this screencast here, because what I want to do is I want to show you some of these things I was talking about in terms of searching. So why don't you go ahead and pick up on screencast 2.